UNH stock continues to recover as we trend up, closing at 361.15 today, guys. If you've been following along with the stock, we've seen this massive movement to the downside. A gap down continuation, followed with another gap down, continuing all the way to the floor of 255, with the better low being that 245 zone, where then price tried to recover, guys. But then we saw that got shot back down again, and ever since we hit that 233 low, we've seen some really nice bullish price action, a gap up continuation, and a continued nice move to the upside, really hitting that gap fill zone of 375, guys, that being the bottom here, gapping down. So we did fill that gap, but we haven't gotten above it. So UNH is setting up, and we're going to be going into the technicals of why UNH could be a good buy going into the next couple of weeks. All right, guys, starting this analysis on the weekly time frame, we see that this stock had a lot of chop between the levels of 533 and 432. So roughly $100 range going back and forth, where eventually we did squeeze out of this zone, get to the highs of 617 being all-time highs, and we couldn't really hold that position. We tried to get up once again, but ultimately we get in a very sharp descending range here, guys. This really being a 60% move to the downside, guys, before finding that recovery. We see that price is trying to recover. We find a little bit of an ascending profile, but we flush that back down to the floor and even lower than this previous low here. But since then, guys, we see a very nice overextended profile on stock. We see a nice green wide bar really engulfing this past price action here, engulfing 1, 2 candles total here, and pretty much this exact move as we continue from this recovery. And we see about 3 weeks of chopping around sideways and a nice continued move to the upside. From there, guys, we've seen a slower but continued move to the upside once again, where now we close at 361 after kind of rejecting off that gap fill zone. From a weekly perspective, I mean, this thing looks great, guys. This thing looks great. Looks like we found a bottom, and now we are actually seeing some nice volatile bullish price action, something we haven't seen within this stock in a very long time. And given the past price action, guys, if we do look at the past here, given the last few years, we see that the stock is a very strong stock overall. It just kind of found a top. Lots of bad news and earnings kind of seep in, which led to this decline. But as UNH is now receiving better news and fundamentals, guys, we are seeing a shift in that right now. And could this mean we go all the way up, correcting this entire movement? Well, so far we are looking good, but we're going to analyze these smaller time frames to see if that is the case here. All right, guys, now on the daily chart, the main zone that we were really focused on was roughly that, say, 281 to 326 zone, that being the high here, that being the low there, where we did find that little bit of a bounce. We found this ascending profile. We see an obvious fight between the buyers and the sellers, guys, as we try to recover from a very sharp move to the downside, continuing for a bit of time, right, being around 2.5 months to 3 months of really just declining. So then we find an ascending profile here, guys, some real ascending support. We're meeting up with a resistance point. We're breaking through that nice and aggressively. And then we pinch into another zone here, guys, meeting back up with the same support and some newfound resistance. And the buyers win that again. 3 candles in a row and a nice green wide bar showing that strength. And we retest that exact same support. Kind of from there, that's where you see the sellers start to take that control as we flush that support. We flush that better range of this, range that we were in, this rough area that it was recovering in, and found that support. We flushed that, and we end up going lower than that last bounce area. And like we were saying in the beginning of the video, guys, this is where we found that steam. So after that bounce, the buyers definitely come in here aggressively, getting us right back over that range. We see a lot of buying pressure on the candle before finding that big gap up, right? That gap up being pretty significant. We're talking around a 10% gap up, which we really did hold that spot quite nicely. We did see a little bit of back and forth, but that previous rough support of 295 did hold up. And instead of really messing around within this range that we were messing around in for a long time, we did escape out of that pretty quickly. If we did have a strong resistance at that 317 like we had in the past there, still, we probably would have saw a bit more of chop, but we did get above that, fall with the gap up, really getting above that zone and above that previous high here, kind of using that rough area as support. And then we continue up. The sellers try to make this movement downwards, that 339 being that top of this wick right here, roughly, right? Move it down a little bit. That's not exactly where we're looking at. We're talking roughly around that 338 better to 337. And you can see that we do kind of use that as support here, bouncing off that candle. The sellers do try to find a little bit of a pullback here, but that's where we kind of break through a little bit of a flag type formation. Break through quite nicely here, and we found another support which we are battling right now. So now we're on a narrow steeper support level meeting up with this newfound resistance. We're kind of forming a pennant here now, guys, because we've gotten this nice move up. After the sellers try to make their movement downwards, we do hit 376, trying to get above this zone where that was that big gap down. So we filled the gap, but now we see a lot of selling pressure as we try to fill and get above that gap, which is to be expected. It makes sense to see something like that turn into some pretty harsh resistance zone. So we do see two candles in a row kind of trying to bring us down, but then we find that support once again. Now 3 days in a row favoring the buyers, looking to squeeze out of this little range that we got going on here, possibly retesting that 375 and looking to find that as support, where it would be looking nice to continue this nice volatile move to the upside as we've been seeing on UNH. Now, if I take you guys to the hourly, we see the squeeze set up a little bit better now. So we found the support right around the zone where we're trying to battle and hold through that 338 and break through that 356. That's what happened as we found that support gap up. Continue. If we zoom out here, we're really seeing a stair step like pattern. We're getting these bigger moves to the upside. We're getting these smaller pullbacks, and this is what we're seeing here. Nice move to the upside. Very small and weak attempt at a pullback. Continuing to the upside, this is where we'd find a real pullback because we are getting lower than the previous low. So sellers do try to step in here, but what do we find? That exact support that propelled us up, and we are looking nice here, guys, chopping and getting tighter between this resistance and support. And it is nice to see a little bit of buying pressure on that last hourly candle. So I think there's a world where we do squeeze out of here. And that would give us some nice confirmation to see a little bit of a mimic move that we saw right here, guys, which would roughly bring us right around that zone of 375. So I think we get a possible retest here. Although on the flip side, guys, if we do end up breaking this support right here, you would see the bears try to gain that control, and you would want the bulls to hold up, higher than not. You wouldn't really want to see price dwindle all the way down to 338, which I think is pretty unlikely in this case scenario. But if we do break down from this pennant, that is a zone you could be finding. We also have some support that we obviously saw right here, guys, a little bit higher, being around that 340 to 341 area. But overall, guys, I think that we look nice, especially given the weekly chart, right? All the nice bullish price action that we've been seeing. I think we do get the squeeze here and continue this move to the upside, as there's a ton of room to run here and a ton to correct from. So short-term price target right now, we do have a retest of 375. And the medium to long-term, guys, I like that $400 psychological level, especially if we can find the squeeze here of this pennant retest and get over this zone strongly, use it as support, continue trending to the upside. We are in a nice movement to the upside. I think it's time that we continue to correct from that big movement to the downside. So let me know your price predictions in the comments below. That's what we got going on for UNH. If you guys enjoyed and want to see more UNH videos, make sure to like and subscribe. As always, guys, trade smart. I'll see you all in the next one.